Hey, good everybody. Hello, everybody. My name is Dennis Smith, and we're here today. And I'm going to be talking with Marc Isaacson, who is a Udemy instructor just like myself. And we're going to talk to him as part of the interviews that I'm doing for my new book called Udemy Life. And I want to be able to share with current Udemy instructors and new Udemy instructors different perspectives from all of these different Udemy instructors that are at different points in their cycle with Udemy. So thanks for joining me today, Marc. Go ahead and just tell a little bit about yourself before we get started with the questions.
Sure. I am a newer Udemy instructor. I launched my first course in January of 2015, and as we're doing this interview now, we're in October of 2015. What I really am in real life is a freelance Drupal web developer. And I know that, Dennis, you got some more questions for me, so I won't get into too much of the background, taking away all of your thunder before you get to ask the things here. But
Yeah,
just really briefly, the way that I had actually come to Udemy was with the idea of teaching people how to do web development, specifically using the Drupal content management framework.
that's cool because I mean we've talked before, and I do some Udemy stuff myself, and haven't really gotten into Drupal. But when did you do you remember when you first came across Udemy?
Actually, so that's kind of interesting. So I had had this idea for a long time about wanting to do online training for Drupal, but I had to decide how I wanted to put the pieces together. And so, to condense long story short, eventually I finally came up with the idea that I was going to do a Kickstarter campaign so I could build this platform to teach people how to do Drupal. And the Kickstarter campaign, total fail. Total fail. I got like 1% funded basically. But in the course of doing that campaign, which I ran from I forget if I put it live November of 2014 maybe, but towards the end of 2014, totally failed to get funded. But I had connected with Nick Walter through that campaign. I think because I had done some research when I wasn't getting any money to my Kickstarter campaign, I said, but there are other tech type of things like this where people got funded to produce classes. And so I happened to find out about Nick Walter's profile. I pinged him, asked him how he did it. Anyway, Nick let me know about Udemy. So I found out about Udemy through Nick Walter. And Nick Walter does this Swift programming type stuff. For those of you who don't know, he's kind of one of the poster children of success on Udemy. And so I happened to stumble into Udemy as a result of making that contact with Nick. And what I had as my initial introduction is that Nick was running a Kickstarter campaign for some Swift programming course that he was doing. And since he was nice to me and he backed me on my campaign, I backed him on his campaign. And when his campaign was successfully funded, he sent me a coupon code for his course that happened to be on Udemy. So I look at this coupon code, I click through. That was the first I'd ever heard about Udemy. And so I created my account, I sign in there, and I kind of glanced at Nick's course and I said, oh, oh, this Udemy thing could be something that I could use. Instead of building my own platform to teach these Drupal courses, I could do it through Udemy. So it was basically like in December of 2014 that I found out about Udemy.
That's cool. I think that we all have like some kind of other person that we connected to Udemy with. I was thinking about it, and a friend of mine who I've actually met in person a couple of times, she's an author, and that's how I stumbled upon Udemy myself. So that's pretty cool. So you launched your first course, and how many do you have now?
I've got three courses that are published right now, and at the moment, I'm actually working actively on three more courses that I hope to publish sooner rather than later. So the
Mm-hmm.
first one was launched, as I said, in January 2015. Here's a mistake that we can get into talking to later to giving some people advice. I did not launch my second course until June of 2015,
Wow.
and that had some serious consequences for me having taken so long to launch the second course. I launched my third course in I think I ended up launching it in September of 2015. I got sidetracked with things. And again, I'm going to say I took a big hit taking so long to even launch that third course. And we can circle back to that some later and get into some
Yeah.
more of the details of that.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at your courses because I know that when we've talked before, I always used to say course and forget that now you've added more. I think the Drupal, you said that the Drupal course was your first,
That was my
and,
first.
and then I'm seeing some other ones here. It looks like business success formula, build websites that work, and it gets cut off there, and then the command line survival.
Hmm.
So which of those three is your most popular?
Well, so like full disclosure for people that are watching, popular is all relative, okay?
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned, like it's taken me a while to figure out how to start putting some of the pieces together. So there's not a tremendous amount of money that I've earned off this. And as far as the course that's the most popular, I'd actually have to look in my dashboard to see which course. September was my best month. And I think just for people to know, instead of talking in these abstract terms and whatever ideas they're going to create in their mind. So just to be honest, I've made $94 on Udemy so far, and up until the beginning of September, I had earned maybe like $50 total, and I earned another $40 just in the month of September alone. So I didn't quite double my income in 1 month, and so I don't know if the course that I was able to do that with was the I think it was really being able to market my command line survival course to my existing student base. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably would be my most popular course in terms of the amount of revenue that it's generated, not necessarily in terms of the amount of students that are enrolled in that course.
Yeah. What I like about you though is I like your positive attitude. We've talked before. I know that you're doing some stuff on Blab, so you're starting to connect with other people, and that's one of the things that I did from the get go. And I
Right.
think that that really helps an instructor because people start to know who you are and all of that. And you've got like very specific topics, and where mine might be marketing, but I think that as you add more, that you're going to see more revenue growth with your courses, with the demand and stuff like that. I know you had mentioned Swift, and that one always comes to mind because I used to code years ago, but I got away from that. It's not what interests me. Marketing and stuff like this is what I like, and so like trying to keep my train of thought here is that sometimes it's kind of tough with those courses to get people to buy it, and find where those people who are interested in that stuff. But that, the Apple operating system and stuff like that, I've seen some crazy numbers, and I'm sure you've seen some
Sure.
crazy
Absolutely.
numbers on that too. And I'm like, oh my goodness, maybe I
Well,
should be learning that.
yeah, well, there's different roads to travel. So yeah, so speaking about thinking about learning that, sure, there are some topics that are going to be hot on Udemy, but I still really haven't changed. I'm doing a rebranding right now, and like you say, that you see, I'm getting active on Blab. I'm doing some other things. I had to take a step back to learn from the experiences that I had and how I was going to be able to build a business to actually start getting some success on Udemy. And that's why I do have a positive attitude
Hmm.
because I'm in this for the long run. I've built a number of other businesses before. I've been self-employed a good percentage of my life at this point now. And I know it takes time to get things started. And you just got to figure out how the pieces come together. And that's what I'm doing right now. So I have no shame in admitting to people the fact that I haven't made much money. Be- and at the same time telling people, but I know I'm gonna make a lot of money doing this.
Yeah.
It'll come. It's gonna come over time. I'm putting the pieces into place. I'm building the foundation
Hmm.
for success. And like you say, it's a matter of putting together a critical mass of courses, putting together some related courses, and then also being able to be smart about topic selection. Because one of the, that I had mentioned that I had created that Drupal course. Launched it in January, and then my idea was that I want to perfect making courses before I make my second course. And so I was just trying to get feedback on that first course, and I didn't have engagement from the students. I wasn't getting the feedback. And until I finally realized, like, I have to just start producing more courses and learn as I go. Because if I wait until get the feedback on this first course to learn how to do my second course properly, I'm never going to do the second course. And that's the big hit that I was talking about, is I sat on that first course for so long, even though it was making negligible sales, it was getting negligible interaction. And so I had to realize I need to start putting some more of these pieces into the foundation myself. I need to get more courses out there. I need to explore some other topics that will have broader appeal so I can get more students into the student base. And then it's going to be able to compound from there. So this is where my positive attitude comes from, because I realize mistakes that I made, and I realize that there are things that I can change to address those mistakes and to help to bring more success to myself.
Yeah, it is very important to get that next course out, because I remember myself starting in July of 2014 with the WordPress course, and then just kind of waiting, and it was like maybe the first month was $14, and then it was like 40 or 80, and then 100 or whatever. But then I started going into the Udemy Studio, which I recommend that others, if you're a newbie, that you do that. And I know that you're in some of those. And there's the faculty lounge once you're an instructor and you have a course. But one of the things that I just remember is seeing some of those, the revenues, and I'm like, okay, I got to do something here, because I know that creating these other courses, and you know the same thing, that you can start leveraging that with cross promotions, and then you start seeing the income increase. And so I see that you're doing that now. So why don't you you talked about perfecting like the course creation and all of that. What do you do differently, or what are some of the things that you do to make sure that when you're creating a course, what advice can you give others out there?
Okay, so, well, first of all, the first advice that I would give is you have to get your first course created. Just get it done. Get some minimum viable product out there. There's a learning curve to doing Udemy, and you are never going to get over the learning curve if you don't give yourself that chance to learn. And you just can't sit, don't try to make something perfect. Perfect is the enemy of done, right? So for your first course, just get something done as fast as you can, and then give yourself the opportunity to learn from that. And so things that I'm doing differently, and it's interesting because when I created my first course, I was so proud of myself. I had the course. I thought it was so cool what I had done. And honestly, if you look at that course right now on my page, you'll see I've got written right in the course summary that says, hey, I need to totally update this course to bring the production quality up to the level of quality of the content. When I come back and listen to that course now, I'm like, oh my God, the audio is terrible. Like this, like I need to redo this stuff. But you don't know what's good and what's bad until you've had a chance to produce something and see what kind of results you get, and get a chance to then start working on something else and learn from some of the mistakes you made before. So some of the things that I'm doing differently now have to do with the way that I had tried to record my courses before. Is I would do my screencast, and I'd have the video. And then I'd come back later on. I knew about separating audio and video from the beginning. I mean, that's something that I had a sense. I want these separately for my own sanity in editing them and to get the best quality. But what I did in the beginning is I tried to do the screencast, record it first, and then come back later on, and then watch the screencast and do the voiceover. And it created, and you'll see this in this first course, because that's the way I did it. I've only updated like 2 of the lectures right now. So it creates this kind of disjointed kind of flow that isn't like really smooth. And so one of the things that I've changed is I record my audio first. This is when I'm doing screencast. Obviously, when you're doing talking head, you can see the green screen behind me. When you're doing screencast type of stuff, what I found is I do write out all my scripts, but whether you write out the script or don't write out the script, is I record my audio first, and then later on I will come back and I'll listen to my audio and I'll do my screen capture to be in sync with that audio. And that just creates a much better flow for things, because my audio, I'm able to deliver that in a nice, fluent fashion to people. And so then make the video fit around that. So that's one big change that I made.
That's interesting.
From having the way that I had done the course the first time.
Yeah. Are you able to hear me? Because I'm on a new microphone and I hit mute. Am I unmuted?
You're fine. I hear you just fine.
Okay. I try to mute myself when I take a drink of water so people don't hear that. So you actually split like those, because I just go ahead and record and all of that, and I'm not an audio or video expert. I've done some of that stuff, but I'm kind of learning still as I go, because I'm really picky, with what I'm doing. I try to make sure that I release quality stuff. So I just want to get it recorded. Some people, we all do different things. I mean, we're all different with that stuff. I mean, we were talking earlier, I don't even have a green screen. So let's go ahead and move into marketing.
Sure.
And I wanted to ask you a little bit more about that, because I know that you were saying that, and you're open to what you've earned, and I think that that's really cool. And I'm the same way. I mean, I started I was saying back in July, and 6,200 is what I'm at right now. And we know, like, people like Phil Ebner do 11,000 a month and all of that, but he's been on Udemy for a lot longer. And I was thinking as you were talking, I remember back, I can still remember this, in my high school yearbook, my senior saying was, "Slow but sure" is an expression used to describe those who gain success through steady effort. And I kind of think that that's maybe where you're at, and also where I'm at. I'm a little bit further ahead, because I started doing some of this stuff like the Hangouts and things like that when I first started. But what would be some of the things that you do? How do you market these courses? Like things on Drupal. Where do you go?
So the question of marketing is a really important question to keep in mind before you start. This is one of the huge mistakes that I made when I started with this. I had ideas of where I was going to market the Drupal courses. Because you've got the forums you can go to. There's Drupal camps. There's Drupal conferences. There's IRC channels that people use. But I thought I had more reach in the Drupal community than it turns out that I really had. I hadn't really done good market research on how well that was going to work for me. And this is a question that I think that a lot of new instructors, you'll see it in the studio all the time. People, I just launched my first course. Now what do I need to do to start selling it? This is totally backwards, folks. You can't do it this way. You have to have an idea of who your audience is and how you're going to market it to them before you produce the course. And so as far as things that I'm actually doing now, and you can approach these things in different ways. My focus right now is getting this critical mass of courses. I think there's some compounding value that you get out of having a certain portfolio in place before I really start hitting harder on the marketing efforts. But as you've mentioned, Dennis, one of the things that I'm doing is I said, okay, I need to start getting some more personal branding. I need to start building a following. I need to start producing some content out there that gives people a reason to find out about me. So the marketing efforts that I'm going to be focusing on while I'm getting my courses together here is doing some of this type of content marketing. So I'm doing these blab interviews, which is going to give me videos that I can put up on YouTube. It's going to give me audios that I can put on a podcast. It's going to give me a transcript that can be turned into a blog post. And it's about success stories. So it gives people a reason to want to come to see that stuff and consume that content, which is going to give me the opportunity to start building a bit of a reputation and start building a bit of an audience. Yeah. So what are three things I just mentioned there? YouTube for video, blog posts for text, and podcasts for audio. Start getting some content out there. And that's what I had to do. I had to step back and realize, like, my idea of that, I'm going to produce these Drupal courses, and now I'm just going to try to go sell these courses in the Drupal community. It's not really a good approach. Like, I wasn't as established in the Drupal community as I thought I was. I didn't have the kind of traction that I thought I had. It's for most people trying to sell them stuff, Drupal stuff, I'm like coming out of the blue, and people just they aren't buying it. And figuratively, they aren't buying it. So the marketing types of thing that you need to do is start laying some of the foundation before you've got your stuff to sell. Yeah. Start building your credibility. Start building your audience. Start giving people a chance to know, like, and trust you. Sure. I can't go back in time. I mean, I made that mistake. I screwed it up. I did it wrong. I came about this the wrong way. I thought, okay, I want to teach Drupal stuff online. I'm going to start producing these Drupal things and I'm going to start selling it to people. And that's where I got myself hung up for like 6 months there. And that's where I'm having to step back and kind of redo things and figure out how am I going to put the proper foundation in place. And so to just repeat what I've said, so the foundation, get my YouTube channel going, get stuff on YouTube. The whole way that I was branding myself in the beginning was this whole teach yourself Drupal, and I've now just realized, no, I'm not just going to do Drupal classes because that's not getting me into the type of topics I need to get into, and that's not getting me branded the way I want to be branded. So I'm starting to create my Marc Isaacson brand and get the content that I can use to draw people to my Marc Isaacson brand. So, I'm basically having to start as though, sure, I've got 3 courses that are live right now, but basically I'm having to reincarnate myself and go through this whole process of now that I realized, whoops, that was a huge mistake not having put more of the work into the marketing and the name recognition before I started this.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time and effort with that stuff. I mean, even myself, who knows a lot about this stuff, that I have the YouTube channel, but sometimes I have to create a list, and we're going to talk about some stuff on staying productive, during the day, but I use some tools to remind myself that I have to do certain things. And you mentioned podcasting. Well, I've done a little podcasting. I have the Udemy Marketing Minute that I was doing, but I have to remind myself that I have to do this every Friday and make a steady effort to deliver this stuff. And the same thing with the blab stuff. It didn't hit me until like I was doing a blab and Dave Espino was on there. And as he was talking, I was like, oh my gosh, I get, excuse me, I get the video, I get the audio, and I get an embed code from Blab. And I'm like, I can take this audio and turn it into a podcast. Now, the thing with a podcast is that typically people don't like any more than 30 minutes to an hour in a podcast.
Right.
However, it doesn't matter because there are people out there who would probably listen. And I took a road trip and I came back, Seattle to Bend, Oregon, and then Bend to Boise. Between Bend and Boise is about 5 hours. I loaded up some podcasts because my car stereo lets me put a USB stick into it. And I just moved those over from my MacBook and listened to, I was going to ask you maybe some of your favorite podcasts. I listened to Nick Loper and his Side Hustle Nation. And I got some good information as I was driving on email marketing and stuff like that, that I stopped and wrote down some notes and things like that. But just some ideas on all of this stuff. And you said the transcribing. That was another thing while I was in Bend. The person that I had dinner with, who also was a member of the Side Hustle Nation, gave me the idea, like, why aren't you transcribing your blabs? And I'm like, I never thought of that. And it's blog content, like you were saying, repurposing that stuff. And it also gives you ammunition for not only future Udemy courses, but also future books. And so, that's just some of the stuff that I'm doing. And I think it's cool that, that you're doing this stuff too, because I think you're totally right. You have to kind of think outside of the box in order to build a name for yourself. And once you build that name for yourself and people see your courses or whatever, they're not even going to think about they're going to hit that take this course button and take your course, because they already know what you offer. So I think that that's pretty cool. So let's talk about, are there some tools that you use to stay productive throughout the day, like reminders, applications, or anything like that you use on a smartphone?
Okay, so the short answer is no, I'm not using anything on a smartphone. But I want to tie into the idea of staying productive because, as I said, I've been self-employed. I've started a number of businesses over time. Those businesses, though, I was always serving some other client who pretty much drove this is what I want done. This is what I want the time frame done in. And so they laid out everything, and I just, so let's just focus it on the latest business that I've been doing for over 5 years now is web development. And I'm a code monkey, and I'm good at this stuff. And so clients, and I get a lot of work through it. But it's always the client who came up with the idea for what they wanted done on the website, and they set the priorities and they set the timeline. And when you've got that kind of structure, that really helps you stay productive and stay focused and get stuff done. It's a totally different story when you become your own boss, actually. And so you do need to be more conscious about, what did I do today? Like, what did I get done? And so you need to use some more planning. And so for me, what I do, I don't have any fancy applications that I've got, but it's more of, first of all, having a big picture. And so let's give some specifics. So right now, actually, I'm doing my 3-month trial period of focusing, letting Udemy be my primary focus. And I've mentioned I've got 3 courses that are live in the marketplace now. I want to, by the end of December, I want to have at least 10 courses published. So that's one point in staying productive, is to have a specific goal that you have in mind. Not to say, oh, I just want to produce a lot of courses in these 3 months. Well, what's a lot? Did you succeed or didn't you succeed? You are muted right now, Dennis. It looked like you were talking and I couldn't hear you, so I think you're muted.
There we
Okay.
go. I was going to say
So
10's a good number,
yeah, so 10's a nice number to have, and it's a good thing to have as a target, because if I've got 12 weeks here and I try to aim for getting a course a week, so this is where some of the pieces start to come into play with being productive, is having these specific numbers that you can measure against. I want to have 10 more courses live. I've got 12 weeks to do it. That means I get about a week per course that I have to have done. And then I'm able to look at the end of the week and say, did I finish another course or not? And they, like I said, right now I'm actually working on 3 courses at the same time. So it's not necessarily going to be that each week I'll have a new course. It may be 3 weeks and I'll have all 3 of them released. But still that idea of, if I'm trying to aim for a course a week. And then the other piece that's important is, whatever tool you want to use. I use Google Apps for my business account. And so there's the calendar on there. Put the time, block out the times in the calendar. From this time to that time, I'm working on this task. From this time to that time, I'm working on this task. And at least you're going to know whether you're following through in your plan or not. You're going to know when you're procrastinating. You're going to know when you're screwing around, because you're going to say, oh yeah, that's right. And so I know that it's okay that I'm talking to you on this Skype call right now, because I put it in my calendar. And I know that this wasn't time that I was supposed to be working on something else. This is the time that I'm talking to you. But I've got other things in my calendar where I'm supposed to be working on other things. And so to have that type of personal accountability, otherwise it's way too easy. You mentioned the studio and the faculty lounge. Oh my God, how much time you can get lost on Facebook fooling around, posting this or responding to that and going back. Blab. There's another one. How lost you can get on Blab. Look at this Blab or hang out in that Blab. So when you are really being your own boss, that's one of the key skills that you've got to develop, is that type of discipline, that type of planning, specific goals, and then putting it into your calendar. That's not going to guarantee that you're going to succeed, but at least you know when you've been screwing around, because you know you were supposed to be doing this instead of that. And then it just helps to heighten your awareness so that you start doing that less and less.
True. It's like I use some applications to do that, and you talked about blocking out time. So I blocked out specific time to do these Skype calls. And the other thing that I was thinking about doing, somebody had sent me, I met a couple of other Udemy instructors up in Seattle, and she sent me a link for this app that will prevent me from going to Facebook at all during the times that I set, because it's not only the studio, it's anything in your feed. You just sit there and you start seeing something. And for me, if it's maybe something political or whatever, I have to remind myself that I'm not going to change somebody's mind or whatever. So why get caught up in an argument with someone? I do some stuff maybe to, generate, because the way Facebook works is to get people to like and comment on stuff that I post, because that keeps me relevant on Facebook, so that, like marketing, I don't market to my friends all the time, but every now and then I'll let them know that, this is what I'm doing on Udemy. And people like that because they see what I'm doing in my life. And I don't know if you do the same thing, but, it's just, like you said, you just kind of have to know when to push something to the side and get things done. So let's talk about a couple of other things here. We've got about 10 minutes here. We've already covered a few of these things that I have coming up, but and we talked about this briefly beforehand. What advice would you give to other Udemy instructors?
Okay. So as far as so I think I gave that bit of newbie advice already, is just get your first course done. It's a learning process. You need to get that first course out there so
Yeah.
you get the experience of creating a course. And then the next bit of advice that I would give that sort of segues in between a new instructor versus someone who's more established is then also once you've got your first course out there, get right on the second course to get the second course published. So as far as talking to instructors that maybe have been around for a while, some things they can do, what we were talking about earlier, you can see behind me the green screen and these soft boxes that I have. I wasted a whole lot of time and money like trying to go this do-it-yourself route for doing my lighting to get the talking head videos done. And what the end result ended up being for me is that it just took me so much longer to shoot the videos. I was always having to fool around trying to get things right. It just cost me a bunch of time and money that it would have been so much better if right up front I just would have gotten my lighting kit. So for somebody who's an established instructor, one of the things that I would say is, I'm not saying you have to do talking head videos, although Udemy is saying that's important, and it's obviously I believe it's important. I'm actually a certified teacher. I don't have my certification anymore, but I know about forming a relationship with the student. So I do think talking head is important, but whether or not it's talking head or whatever other technique you're using to produce your courses, make the investment in the tools that's going to make you more efficient and effective, and is going to allow you to produce better quality courses. Don't try to penny wise and pound foolish is what I'm saying here. That's one of the things that I learned from this, is the amount of time and honestly money that I ended up wasting trying to go the do-it-yourself cheap route with the lighting was just a huge mistake. So take the time to figure out what's some equipment that's going to make you better and faster at producing your courses, and then be willing to invest in it.
Mm-hmm. Good. And we already talked about like some of the stuff that I have here. We've talked about the income and all of that. And one of the questions that I had for other instructors is, what are some of the things Udemy has allowed you to do? But in your situation, like let's
It still has allowed me to do some stuff, though. I can still answer that. You don't have to totally sidestep it. Maybe I haven't gotten the income out of Udemy that's allowed me to pay off a debt or buy a new car or take a vacation. But one of the things that Udemy has allowed me to do is just based on having to go through the quality review process and taking part in the studio and the faculty lounge. I mean, I told you, my first course I thought was so cool. I was so proud of it. But now I realize how bad the production quality is. And so one of the things that Udemy has allowed me to do is to get a better idea of, how do you produce courses? What are the types of things you need to do? They've got their challenges that they run. They've got all of the data that they collect, and they'll share the findings that they have from some of that stuff. So just getting that ability to oh my gosh, I'm an engineer, I'm a code monkey, a programmer, but I've gotten such an education in thinking in terms of marketing and sales.
Yeah.
So one of the things Udemy has allowed me to do is pick up some new skills that are valuable skills for me in life. So
awesome. I
can offer that.
I think that that's a great answer on that, because it's the same thing that I think that it helps you learn how to do all of this stuff so that you can continue to improve. So if you do want to like maybe take it off of Udemy at some point and host your own courses somewhere else, you can certainly do that. But do you have like maybe as that income increases, do you have something that you might want to do with that?
Well, I do actually. So when we were talking earlier, you were curious about my green screen. I was explaining the
Yeah.
setup, and one of the things that I told you about is that where I'm doing my course production right now is in this 10 by 10 bedroom, which is not big enough for what I want to do. I kind of run into this conflict that I can't get far enough away from the green screen and still be far enough away from my teleprompter. I'm like kind of squeezed in the middle of the room. So I have this dream of what I'd love to do is build a proper studio on my property so that I
Yeah.
can have proper sound treatment and I can have the proper configuration of the room so I can be that much more effective in creating high quality courses. So that's my dream is to
That's awesome.
let me get enough revenue happening on Udemy so that I can build a studio on my property and really do a good job producing the courses.
Yeah, and you could even possibly rent that out to others in the area if you wanted to. More income for you. And so, yeah, I think that that's pretty cool. I mean, myself, I would like to have my own place and have a room specifically dedicated to that. But like you were saying, there are challenges when the room is a smaller space, and most typical bedrooms are that 10 by 10. So you talked about that you're working on a couple, and your goal is to have about 10 courses. Are you able to talk about maybe some of those courses that you're going to be launching soon?
Absolutely, yeah. So, one of the things that I mentioned, a problem that I struggled with, it was just figuring out good topic selection. And so, what I'm doing is I'm exploring different types of topics to see where maybe I can gain some traction. So, I'm co-teaching a course with another instructor who's going to be a first-time, published instructor. It's an introduction to DevOps. This is something that is going to have to be more of like a long-term type of strategy for me because I don't think people are really coming to Udemy to learn DevOps, but I do have some connections that I can tap into that could make this potentially successful. So that's one area that I'm exploring
Mm-hmm.
is putting together like a DevOps curriculum. I'm co-teaching another course with an instructor I believe she's got this is Kristen Palana. So Akshat
Oh,
Goyal
awesome.
is who I'm going to be doing the introduction to DevOps course with. But I'm working with Kristen Palana on a course because she actually has some type of creating website courses, but she's got her whole like color psychology and she's got more of the visual artistic type background, whereas I've got the coding background. So I'm working on a course with Kristen right now because one of the courses that I was testing to see about a different topic is this business success formula that you talked about. Create a website that works for you. And I go through the process of the questions that you have to answer to properly define a website before you start designing or building it. But one of the steps that you need to take in there is defining your brand. And I gave some examples of like what that means to define a brand, but what I'm doing with Kristen is we're putting together a full course where we're actually going to be branding a website that I've created, so that people can see like, oh, these are the choices that they made. And then the third course that I'm working on my own right now, I'm doing this exploration into. I've got the course that's the command line survival. So this is a follow up on the command line survival, whereas that one was transfer and manage files with ease. This one is manage MySQL databases with ease. So I'm testing out tapping into this sort of like command line, like Linux type of training stuff that Udemy has. So those are the three things that I've got going right now. I've also contacted other instructors to do some co-teaching to again test some other topic areas and see what might be a good fit. So that's what I'm going to be doing over these 3 months with these additional courses that I'm putting out, is to try to get a variety of courses on different topics and to get that feedback of, okay, I should do more of this. And maybe I won't put so much time into that. But until I can gather some of that data, then it's hard for me to know exactly what direction to go.
Yeah. Wow. Sounds like you're going to be busy. It's kind of weird thinking about, like you said, 3 months, and I'm like, yeah, that's right. It is 3 months until the end of the year, but man, that comes up quick sometimes.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, that's some great things that you're doing there, and Kristen, she's really cool. So we're just about at the end here. I've got just one last question for you, and then
Sure.
let you tell people where they can find you at online. Is do you have one last thought or piece of advice maybe that you can share?
Yeah, I do, and it ties into my whole philosophy on life. And what you've kind of picked up on with me in general is that while there may be some instructors that have been able to hit a hot topic on Udemy and they've just hit organic sales from the beginning, I think that if you don't come to Udemy expecting that you're going to create that one class that's going to generate $10,000 a month for you, and now you're just going to be sitting pretty on that. You have to plan to come to Udemy to uh, put together a group of courses and be prepared to put the work in and to think long term about this, that you're going to lay a foundation that's going to build over time and eventually it's going to compound to produce the income for you. So and then the other side of that is to come to Udemy recognizing the marketplace and how the sales model works. Don't be one of those people who says, "How come Udemy is selling my courses for $10? How come I can't possibly sell a $300 course for $10?" You have to understand the pricing model on Udemy. So structure your courses in a way that you're happy selling your courses at $10 or $19 or $7 but just recognize that you're going to be in the range that you're selling your courses for tens of dollars, not hundreds of dollars,
Yeah.
and that you're going to have to create a bunch of courses and actually build a curriculum for you to make money doing this.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And if you're listening to this somewhere and you're not familiar with Udemy, teach.udemy.com is a great place to start because there's a lot of information there. So, where can people find you online?
So obviously they can find me on Udemy. They've got the standard HTTPS www.udemy.com/u. So my slug that you'd find me at is just Marc Isaacson, Marcisaacson. So you can find me right there on Udemy, and
Yeah,
Udemy gives us the ability to link to all our other places. So that's probably the one-stop shop where you can go to find out about other places that you can find me on there.
yeah,
And
that's
I had mentioned that I was stepping back to be doing some rebranding myself. And so the site that I put together is marcisaacson.com. So MarceIsaacson.com. And so those would be two good places that you can that I'd be happy to have you stalk me and get in touch with me.
yeah. I think that like going to Udemy is kind of a catch-all. That's a good idea because I usually tell people to go to my website and then find me, other places. So, yeah, definitely, make sure that you check out where Mark is at online and follow him as he's adding these courses because we're recording this right now on October the 8th in 2015, but this is going to be out on social for quite a long time. And Mark and I are going to be on Udemy, hopefully for a long time too. You can find me at dennisjsmith.com. And Mark, I want to thank you for your time today. I really appreciate instructors like yourself taking time out of your day to join me so that we can share this information out with others, in places like YouTube and blogs and Blab and stuff like that. So thanks again. I
You're
appreciate it.
welcome.
All right, everybody. Thanks, and thank you, Mark.